Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and we are back on the Alfarrari. I know you've been missing it, but we're back. Alright guys, Happy New Year, and I know a lot of you have been waiting for it, but we are back finally working again on the Alfarrari. I did have a bit of a break over that time, some of it enforced by my own stupidity by getting 11 stitches in my head, which is healing up quite well actually. I'll post a link to that last video up above so you can catch up, and think about subscribing if you haven't. It does help us out, hit the bell and all those sort of stuff. So where we left off on this, I did show you guys a bunch of renders that Jürgen from Sweden did that are absolutely amazing, and he has done a bunch more in some racing liveries and stuff, which I'm posting up now, and I am really happy with this. I know there were lots of comments about the color it's going to go, and there are a bunch more colors here as you can see, and I'm not telling you what it's going to be. I know what it's going to be, and you can have your opinions, and I'd be keen to see what you think. What do you think of these racing liveries as well? I think they look amazing, and Jürgen's work, it looks so close to real. It's amazing. I'm very happy, but it is time to get back to work, and where we left off, I was working in the front here, trying to get the radiator all tidy up and just sort of finishing up this engine bay area. And again, I was going back and replacing those gas struts that I did with these with the original torsion bars. So we're going to keep working on that. I'm going to get stuck in now and sort of have a bit more of a look, see what I need to do to get it all back to the way it was, and remove all these stupid mounts that I spent ages building and putting in gas struts. Let's go. All right, so I had to assemble everything again to work out where I'd gotten up to, because it's been a while, and yeah, I'm just refining this panel just so that it looks nice and neat and fits nicely, fits in with these torsion bars. As I mentioned earlier, I did put in the gas struts, but they were never going to work, and definitely not as good as these original torsion bars. I have noticed that actually the filler cap for my radiator is just touching the bonnet here. So I'm going to trim this area out and make a little patch panel, or at least I'll trim it out while it's on the car. I can make the patch panel later. Make sure it clears, and then I can start disassembling again, now that I know everything is going to fit, and put it back to the way it's supposed to be. All right, well that was a lot of work to get me all the way back to basically standard again. So I've got my stay put back in, the original stay, so I'm using the original stay, original torsion bars. So now I'm going to pull it all apart and cut off the rest of these mounts, tidy up the bonnet, and then we can move on to something else. So that was just hand cutting out a nice little piece just to fill in that section, and I've got a nice little divot there. All right, so now we need to move back into the engine bay again. All right, so moving back on, I want to move back into the engine bay, and you saw that I smoothed up this stuff a couple of weeks ago, and there's sort of these indentations here that had stuff in the engine bay of the car originally, and none of that stuff's here anymore. And I know it's going to bug me if I just leave these sort of indentations. So my next job, fill them in, cut them out, patch them up, make it nice and flat and smooth and neat and tidy. So I continually get lots of people asking me about this, so I thought I'd go over it again. I know I've done it in the past, but just to reiterate, putting a patch in like this, there's a few ways of doing it. This way, as I said, I sort of got my patch piece pretty much the right size, drew around it, and then cut out the base metal to fit my patching, got a nice tight fit. And then the most important part of doing a patch, particularly on a big flat panel, the hardest ones to do, is make sure that you have it perfectly lined up when you tack it together. So ensure that there's not any little gap. They are perfectly level. Take your time, do one tack, move on, get it perfectly level, tack the next one, and go all the way around. And I like to do that with the MIG. It's nice and quick and easy with the MIG. And then I'm going to go around it with the TIG and actually finish it all up. The issue always is with welding, and you can do this with a MIG, and you can spread out the welds, but no matter what you do, the metal is going to warp and pull. So basically what you're doing when you're welding is you are taking the base metal, which is already hard, solid, as shrunk as it's going to be, as it wants to be, and then you're adding liquid metal, which is as expanded as it's going to be, because obviously the hotter it gets, the more it expands. So this liquid metal is expanded, goes into the gap, and then as it cools, it contracts. And each weld will contract and basically pull all the metal in from around it. So there's no real way to avoid that. You can put gaps in it, you can spread it out. Whatever you do, it's going to be pulling that metal all the time. It's just physics. It's just the way that the metal reacts. So the way I like to do it is I prefer to use the TIG. If you can use a TIG, the benefit of the TIG is that the TIG rod is softer than the MIG rod, so you actually have a softer metal that you're putting in. And also you generally put in less metal because you can just sort of melt what you need to, whereas the MIG seems to make a very big, very hard weld that then takes a lot of grinding to get it back out, whereas the TIG is soft and you can actually hammer it out. So even when you TIG it, it's obviously going to pull a bit, but if you can put the dolly behind and then hammer, TIG it up, hammer it out, TIG it up, hammer it out, and you will stretch that metal back out just that little bit that it's contracted, and you should get a reasonably nice flat welded area. Let's give it a go. So you can see here how flat the welds are. They're really not that pronounced and built up like a MIG would, and that is quite soft, so it's going to be much easier to grind it down. So I'm going to grind it back now, and I should get it a pretty flat finish. And there we go, we have a nice, flat, smooth repair. It looks nice. I'm really happy with that result. So now I have to do the same thing again with this indentation. This is a little bit bigger, but same process. All right, so I spent a fair bit of time then getting this all nice and flat. It took a fair bit of hammer and dolly work because it still warped a bit and there was a little bit of stretching and stuff that wasn't perfect that I wanted to just get nice, and that is really good now. That's nice and flat and even all the way around doing that patch panel. I had to do a little bit of work to tidy up this hole again because I had to weld really close to the edge and blew through the edges. So I used, ouch, still hot, this tool that some of you might have seen, which basically where you stick it on behind and you can sort of adjust the foot of it. And this is a brass foot so that it doesn't actually, the weld doesn't stick to it. So you stick it behind the hole and weld around it. This is a great little bit of gear. I'll put a link in the description of this thing. And I started playing with this little thing. So this is an air chisel that I went and got some sort of hammer heads for. And I've been using it as a planishing hammer. So I had to run the air quite low, only a small amount of pressure. And basically it just does a lot of repeat hammering. So I can sort of put a dolly on the other side and on either side of the panel and just help smooth it all out and gets rid of a lot of the dents in quick order rather than just sitting there with a hammer all the time. And that helped quite a lot. It really did quite a nice job of getting this out nice and flat and smooth. It does stretch the metal a bit, so which is what I wanted because when this was flat, it was a bit bulged, a bit sort of warped. So I put a slight crown in it so that it won't oil can or anything. It's going to be a nice, smooth, neat panel, and I'm quite happy. So, moving on. All right, so my next task today is to start getting this car ready to do the heavy reinforcing that it's going to need to get it moving forward. It's always been the plan. There's been lots of people asking about how I'm going to reinforce things, and yes, I'm going to. But the first thing I need to do is go through and get rid of all of these brake lines and fuel lines and this steering rack and all this sort of stuff, so then I can come through and do some more reinforcing through the engine bay and other bits. So let's start some disassembly. All right, so moving on, I've just gone through and I welded up the engine mounts because I had them bolted on, and that's just the way I did it at first. And there's no reason for them not to actually be bolted on. They can quite happily be welded in place. That's where they need to be. And I also sort of did some more finish welding around the steering rack mounts. It's not pretty. It's quite difficult to sort of get in and weld, but there's plenty of penetration there, so it's quite good. And the next thing I'm going to have a look at is, I know there was a lot of concern when I did it, where I cut out this center brace from the car, and I'm going back now and adding in. I did add in a lot of extra reinforcing when I put it in there. So underneath this plate, for those who can see it, there's a bunch of square tubes, and it's all welded in and tied in. And I'm going to go back now and do some more triangulation in these corners to now I know where the engine needs to sit. I can add a bit extra reinforcing again, and and I think this will be more than robust enough for the job in the middle here at least. As I said, I've also boxed it back further and forward, so it's substantially stronger than what it was before. So yeah, we're just adding some gussets to give that extra little bit of strength, and yeah, that's the next job. All right, so you can see there that I've gone through and I've put these reinforcing panels on either side, triangulating that area, and I think that is going to be nice and solid now, so we can move on to the next thing. All right, guys, well, that was pretty short, sharp and shiny one this week, but that's about all I can really do now until I get the car back up on the hoist and I can start doing some further reinforcing, which is the next job. Basically, it's now the final run on the bodywork to head up to paint, so we're getting closer. But I know you guys have been asking where she's been, so I think it's definitely well and truly time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in 1963, in response to the new prototype class in the World Sports Car Championships, Ferrari developed the 250p. And although it shared the same number as the road cars, this was an entirely new mid-engine chassis. It used a 250 Testarossa 3-litre V12 with a 5-speed transaxle, making 310 horsepower. It achieved immediate success, winning the 1963 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 12 Hours Sebring, and the 1,000 kilometers of Nürburgring. For 1964, Ferrari developed the original 4 cars and 3 new chassis to 275p and 330p. These cars had a bored-out 3.3-litre Testarossa engine and a 4-litre Colombo V12 respectively. The 330p had more horsepower at 370 horsepower compared to 330, but the 275p weighed less at 755 kilos compared to 785 kilos. Some drivers preferred the power, whereas others preferred a lighter chassis. And the most notable success was at the 1964 24 Hours of Le Mans with a 1-2-3 sweep. Ferrari developed a coupe version, calling it the 250 LM, but the FIA refused to homologate it because Ferrari hadn't built the required 100 samples of the car, so it had to be raced as a prototype. The 250 LM was powered by the 3.3-litre engines from the 275p. As per the Ferrari naming convention, they should have been called the 275 LM, but Enzo Ferrari insisted on retaining the 250 LM name to assist in the homologation process. Notably, a 250 LM, raced by the North American racing team, won the 1965 24 Hours of Le Mans, which was Ferrari's last overall victory at that race.
All right, guys, and today we have another episode of Mail Time. It's been a little while, so we have a package here from North America somewhere. Got a couple of bits and pieces out of there. Jeff and Mrs. Jeff, it's Thanksgiving here in the States, so it's time to say thank you, and hopefully it's never too late. On behalf of myself and the band of Rasmus, I want to thank you for giving our music a shot on your channel. That was amazing.
Enclosed.
Enclosed. Please find a t-shirt that enclosed. Please find a t-shirt and a couple of stickers. The collector's items as a band of Rasmus is on hiatus, which means it probably will never play again. Well, that's okay. We're proud of you.
No, that's rock and roll for you.
Oh, well, that's rock and roll for you. I'm still slowly working on my Z. Yours turned out great. Congratulations. All the best, man.
All the best to you and the missus.
All the best to you. All the best to you and your missus. Sorry, Kevin. It could be my reading or it could be your handwriting. Probably a little of both. And here we have some stickers. Band Erasmus t-shirt. And for those of you who missed it, I did use these guys' music. They're from Michigan in the US. I used their music in a couple of videos, but it ended up being a headache because of the company that they'd put it on Spotify with, kept flagging it as copyright strike, even though I had permission. And yeah, it was just it was a whole thing. But the music was great, and I really enjoyed dealing with you guys. Thank you very much for this. And the sticker is going to go up on the wall. And if you guys have got anything you want to send through to us to put up on the wall or whatever, you can send it through to Home Built by Jeff, PO Box 1520, Bowral, New South Wales 2576, Australia. All right, it is good to be back on the Alfarrari and getting ready to wrap it up. I am definitely motivated to roll this through this year, and hopefully we'll have it all buttoned up sooner rather than later. That's the plan. Those renders from Jürgen, they are amazing. I said go through again, tell us what you like, what you don't like. I already know what we're doing it, but it's always good to get your feedback.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to follow more of Jeff's crazy stories in the garage, like and subscribe, and you can follow him on Patreon, see the videos a day early without the ads.
Yep.
Big bonus there. And yeah, it's pouring with rain here, and
hence why Monkey is in here. We have 2 cats and 2 dogs, for those who have asked. The dogs have been in previous videos a long time ago, and Monkey's usually kicking around somewhere. So
he loves the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. See ya.
Hey, guys. For 1964, Ferrari developed 4 new cars. For 1964, Ferrari developed the original cars, the original 4, plus 3 new chassis to 250p. These cars had a bored-out version of the 3.3 litre Testarossa, but the 275p weighed less at 755 kilos compared to 785. The 330p had more Is she in the shot?
Yeah.
That's so cute, Monkey.
She's been in lots of the shots.
It's cool.